On March 5, 2025, Elias Carver stepped out of his beat-up sedan and inhaled the crisp, untainted air of Willow Hollow, a quaint suburb just beyond the suffocating grip of Philadelphia. The city had worn him down, its endless clamor of car horns, the oppressive weight of concrete towers, and the sleepless nights haunted by a persistent, bone-rattling hum from the industrial district. Elias, a former public defender with a decade of courtroom battles behind him, had dreamed of escape for years. Willow Hollow, with its tree-lined streets and pastel-painted homes, promised a sanctuary, a chance to trade chaos for calm, to replace the city's jagged edges with the soft rustle of leaves. The house he'd bought was a relic of a bygone era, a two-story craftsman with a sagging wraparound porch, weathered shingles, and a wild tangle of honeysuckle climbing the trellis. It wasn't perfect, but it was his blank slate where he could paint a life of quiet contentment. He imagined mornings sipping coffee on the porch, the steam curling into the cool air, and evenings lost in the pages of a novel, the only soundtrack the chirping of crickets. No more depositions, no more late-night case files, no more urban dissonance. This was his reset button. The realtor, a wiry man named Victor Hensley with a salesman's grin and a handshake too firm to trust, had sold him on the VY shout. "Willow Hollow's the real deal," Victor had said, his voice brimming with practiced enthusiasm. Tight-knit folks, block parties, the kind of place where people still wave from their front yards. You'll fit right in. Elias, weary of Philadelphia's cutthroat pace, had bought the pitch and the house without much hesitation. It was more than a change of scenery. It was a philosophical shift, a rejection of the life that had left him hollowed out. As he unpacked the last cardboard box, a mix of law books, faded photographs, and a chipped coffee mug from his old office, a wave of satisfaction rolled over him. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in streaks of amber and violet, and the sprawling lawn stretched out before him, framed by blossoming dogwoods. For the first time in years, he felt the stirrings of hope. But as he stood there, savoring the stillness, something caught his eye, a faint set of tire tracks cutting across the corner of his lawn, where the manicured grass met a strip of overgrown woods. They were shallow, barely noticeable, likely left by a delivery truck or the pre-VYS owner's mower, he reasoned. He brushed it off, unwilling to let a minor blemish tarnish his newfound peace. Days turned into weeks, and Elias settled into a rhythm. He fixed the porch swing, planted a row of marigolds along the walkway, and even joined the local library's book club, a small but symbolic step into Willow Hollow's community. The tire tracks faded from his mind until they didn't. By mid-March, they were back, deeper and more pronounced, slicing through his lawn like an ugly scar. What had been a faint impression was now a rut, the grass torn and muddy, the tracks appearing with alarming frequency. Each morning, he'd step outside to find fresh EVY denke of intrusion, and each evening, the sight gnawed at him, a splinter in his carefully crafted tranquility. He started watching from his Lee VY in-room window, curtains parted just enough to give him a clear VYEW. It didn't take long to catch the culprit. On a brisk Tuesday afternoon, a sleek silver SUV roared into VYEW, veering off the narrow road that bordered his property and onto his lawn with shameless confidence. The driver, a woman with a cascade of auburn hair and oversized sunglass Cessna, VY gated the shortcut as if it were a birthright, the tires churning up dirt before merging back onto the pavement. Elias's jaw clenched as he recognized her. It was Clara Hensley, Victor's wife and a part-time realtor herself, the woman who'd handed him the keys to this very house with a smile and a promise of serenity. The audacity stung. This wasn't a one-off mistake. It was deliberate, habitual. Over the next few days, he spotted more offenders. A rusted pickup truck, a minivan stuffed with kids, even a delivery van that should have known better. His lawn, once a symbol of his fresh start, was becoming a thoroughfare, a muddy testament to his neighbor's disregard. Anger simmered beneath his calm exterior, a stark contrast to the peace he'd come here to find. He'd left Philadelphia to escape conflict, not to invite into his backyard. Elias wasn't confrontational by nature. Years of mediating disputes had taught him to favor diplomacy over drama. But this was personal. It wasn't just about the grass. It was about respect, about the sanctity of his space. He wrestled with his options, torn between his desire for harmony and the growing need to protect what was his. The internal debate raged as he watched yet another car, a beat-up sedan, this time rumble across his property, the driver offering a casual wave as if Elias were complicit in the trespass. By late March, Elias's patience had frayed to a thread. His sanctuary was eroding, and the idyllic VY sound of Willow Hollow was cracking under the weight of reality. He decided to seek help from the Willow Hollow Homeowners Association, HOA, clinging to the hope that they'd restore order with a stern letter or a community edict. He spent hours preparing, photographing the tire tracks, logging the times and dates of each trespass, even digging up his property deed to confirm his boundaries. Armed with EVY Denke, he felt a flicker of the old courtroom confidencia belief that reason and justice would prevail. The HOA meeting took place in a drab community center, its walls lined with faded posters and its air thick with the scent of stale coffee. Elias sat among a handful of residents, his folder of documents resting on his lap, as the board, a group of tired-looking volunteers, shuffled papers and avoided eye contact. When his turn came, he stood, his voice steady as he laid out his case. "I'm not asking for much," he concluded, meeting the eyes of the board's president, a stern woman named Margaret Duval. "I just want my neighbors to respect my property and stop using my lawn as a shortcut." A heavy silence followed, broken only by the hum of a flickering fluorescent light. Margaret leaned forward, her sharp features softened by a patronizing smile. "Mr. Carver," she began, her tone dripping with condescension, "we understand your frustration. But that corner of your property, it's technically outside our jurisdiction. It abuts the public easement, you see. There's little we can do." Elias blinked, disbelief tightening his chest. "It's my land," he said, struggling to keep his voice even. "The deed proves it. They're trespassing, causing damage." Margaret cut him off with a dismissive wave. "I'm sure they don't mean any harm. Have you tried talking to them directly? Neighborly disputes are best handled neighbor to neighbor." The other board members nodded, their expressions a mix of apathy and discomfort. Elias realized with a sinking heart that he'd misjudged the HOA. They weren't guardians of harmony. They were gatekeepers of the status quo, unwilling to rock the boat. He left the meeting defeated, the weight of bureaucratic indifference pressing down on him. The HOA's refusal wasn't just a setback, it was a betrayal of the community he'd trusted to have his back. As he drove home, the tire tracks glared at him under the streetlights, mocking his naivety. But beneath the frustration, a spark of defiance ignited. If the HOA wouldn't help, he'd find another way. He wasn't a bystander anymore. He was a man with something to protect. The decision came swiftly, born of necessity and a newfound resolve. Elias would build a fencey, a solid, unyielding barrier to mark his territory and end the trespassing once and for all. It wasn't just about stopping the cars. It was a statement, a physical manifestation of his refusal to be walked over. He spent days researching options, poring over catalogs and websites, seeking a design that balanced function with aesthetics. He settled on a 6-foot cedar fence, its warm tones blending with the landscape, accented by clear, no trespassing signs. Finding a contractor proved trickier. Word of the Willow Hollow shortcut drama had spread, and most locals hesitated, wary of picking sides in a neighborhood spat. After a dozen calls, he found Jonah Reese, a grizzled builder with a no-nonsense demeanor and a willingness to take the job. Jonah surveyed the property, his boots sinking into the muddy ruts as he nodded thoughtfully. "Seen this before," he said, his voice rough as gravel. "Folks get territorial out here. You've got every right to fence it off. I'll make it sturdy when budge an inch." As the construction date neared, Elias braced himself for backlash. He knew the fence would ruffle feathers, especially among those who'd grown accustomed to their shortcut. He rehearsed his arguments, stealing himself for complaints or worse. The passive lawyer who'd fled Philadelphia was gone, replaced by a man ready to fight for his peace. On the morning of April 1st, Jonah and his crew arrived, their truck loaded with cedar planks and tools. Elias watched from his porch as they dug post holes, the rhythmic thud of hammers echoing through the quiet streets. The fence rose quickly, a line of defiance cutting across the lawn. By noon, it stood completely a silent sentinel guarding his domain. For the first time in weeks, Elias felt a surge of control, a quiet triumph over the chaos. The peace didn't last. At 5:47 a.m. the next day, a furious pounding jolted Elias awake. He stumbled to the door, heart racing, and peered through the peephole. Margaret Duval stood on his porch, her face a mask of outrage, her fists clenched as if ready to batter the door down. He hesitated, tempted to ignore her, but the pounding grew louder, insistent. With a deep breath, he opened the door a crack. "Margaret," he said, keeping his tone neutral. "What's this about?" She shoved past him, storming into his foyer with the force of a hurricane. "This is unacceptable," she shouted, jabbing a finger toward the fence. "You've blocked our access, our community's lifeline. What gives you the right?" Elias squared his shoulders, his apprehension giving way to resolve. "It's my property," he said firmly. "I've got the deed, the surveys, everything. I asked for help, and you brush me off. This is my solution." Margaret's eyes narrowed, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "We've used that path for years. It's tradition, Elias. You're a newcomer, you don't get to waltz in and upend our way of life." "Tradition doesn't trump property law," he shot back, his calm fraying. "I tried reasoning with you, with the HOA. You left me no choice." She stepped closer, her breath hot with fury. "You're a spiteful little man, aren't you? You'll regret this, I'll make sure of it. You've made an enemy of Willow Hollow." With that, she spun on her heel and stormed out, leaving Elias shaken but unbowed. He barely had time to process the encounter before sirens pierced the morning air. A police cruiser pulled up, its lights flashing ominously. Elias stepped onto the porch as two officers approached, a stocky man with a buzz cut and a younger woman with a notepad in hand. "Mr. Carver," the man asked, his tone clipped. "I'm Officer Torres. We got a call about an illegal obstruction. Care to explain?" Elias nodded, gesturing to the fence. "It's my land," he said, retrieving his documents from inside. "Neighbors have been trespassing, damaging my property. The HOA wouldn't help, so I built this. It's all legal, check the surveys." Torres reviewed the papers, his expression softening as the truth sank in. "Looks legit," he said, handing them back. But the caller misses. "Duval claims it's a public road." "It's not," Elias said, pointing to the deed. "She's upset because it disrupts her routine. That's all." The female officer, Jenkins, returned from speaking with Margaret, who lingered by the cruiser, arms crossed and fuming. "She's insistent," Jenkins said quietly. "Says it's been a community path for decades." Torres sighed, turning to Margaret. "Ma'am, these documents check out. This is private property. You'll need to stop using face trespassing charges." Margaret's face contorted with disbelief. "This is outrageous." "You're siding with him." She stormed off, muttering threats under her breath. Torres offered Elias a wry smile. "She's a handful. We'll keep an eye out. Stay safe, Mr. Carver." As the cruiser pulled away, Elias felt a mix of relief and unease. He'd won the battle, but the war, he suspected, was just beginning. Margaret's defeat didn't go unnoticed. By evening, Willow Hollow buzzed with the news, fueled by whispered conversations and a flurry of posts on the neighborhood social media group. "New guy fenced off the shortcut," one resident wrote. Margaret called the cops backfired big time, another chimed in. Elias became an unwilling celebrity, his fence a lightning rod for debate. The HOA faced a reckoning. Residents, already skeptical of its toothless authority, flooded the board with complaints. "How could you let this escalate?" one email demanded. "Margaret's out of control, step up." Under pressure, the board called an emergency meeting, and Elias, wary but curious, accepted there in VY Tation to attend. The community center was packed, the air thick with tension. Margaret was absent rumor, had it she'd resigned in a huff, but the remaining board members looked chastened. The president, a balding man named Paul Grayson, addressed Elias directly. "Mr. Carver, we owe you an apology. Margaret's actions were out of line. She's been removed from the board, effective immediately." Elias nodded, the vindication bittersweet. "I just wanted my property respected," he said. "That's all." The meeting ended with promises of reform, but Elias left with a cautious optimism. The tide was turning slowly, but surely. In the weeks that followed, Willow Hollow began to heal. The tire tracks faded, replaced by fresh grass, and the no trespassing sign stood as quiet sentinels. Neighbors who'd once avoided Elias now offered tentative smiles or apologetic nods. A few even left notes, "Sorry for the shortcut when happen again." The fence, once a symbol of DVY Shaun, became a marker of mutual respect. Elias found an unexpected ally in Jonah, the contractor. Over beers on the porch, they swapped stories, Jonah's tales of Willow Hollow's quirks blending with Elias's reflections on his Philadelphia days. A friendship took root, grounding Elias in his new home. One summer night, as fireflies flickered across the lawn, Elias sat on his porch swing, the crickets' song filling the air. The chaos of the past months felt distant, a chapter closed. He'd come to Willow Hollow seeking peace and found it, not in the absence of conflict, but in the strength to face it. The journey had tested him, reshaped him, and ultimately rooted him in a community he'd fought to claim. Elias Carver's saga in Willow Hollow taught him, and perhaps the town-enduring truths. Stand firm when it matters. Know your rights and wield them wisely. Lean on community, but trust your own resolve, and embrace conflict as a forward for growth. His lawn, once a battleground, was now a testament to resiliency, a quiet corner of the world he'd earned, one defiant step at a time. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.